Hi, my name is Jamie Boege. I'm a graduate student in the education program at Morningside College. I am also a teacher at OABCIG Elementary School in Ida Grove, teaching K through 5 physical education. Today I'm going to talk about my research on elementary PE engagement and technology-assisted instruction versus traditional instruction. A problem in today's classrooms is student engagement and student focus. Engaged students lead to effective task performance and academic learning. Disengaged students exhibit task-off time, misbehaviors, and less academic performance. Technology and student interests were thought of when thinking about student engagement. A teacher survey was used to monitor engagement levels within each lesson. The reason I wanted to do this research was because I wanted to change for my PE instruction to engage my students better. I also wanted to see how technology would increase that engagement within my students. Misbehaviors and student disengagement is a problem within schools today. Misbehaviors can affect instruction and how students learn. Misbehaviors can also affect students around the misbehavior and how they learn. Teacher practices and delivery of information can also affect a student's learning. Students are engaged when psychological needs are met. Students are also engaged when different learning styles are brought throughout the lesson and help garner the attention of all the students. The most common type of learning styles are visual, auditory, verbal, and kinesthetic, which means moving the body. Students were able to use these different learning styles within this study using PowerPoint presentation. When videos or pictures were used within the study, they showed different skills and how to perform those different skills using visuals, auditory, and kinesthetic visuals, as well as verbal. A student response to technology was also thought about when thinking about engagement. Digital natives are students who were born with technology and use technology almost on a daily basis to learn new information. So to reach students in classrooms today, technology is a major benefactor in student engagement. Using technology as a way to interest students and garner their attention helps student engagement. Effective teaching strategies can also help student engagement. Classrooms with blended technology-assisted instruction reported a higher satisfaction rate than that of traditional instructed classrooms. 21st century skills are also important when thinking about student outcomes and student engagement. 21st century skills are needed before a student graduates high school. When using technology in the classroom, we are touching upon digital literacy within those 21st century skills. This will be helpful for students not only in school, but also within skills later in life. When looking at previous research, there was no study found on PE, no study found on the influence of technology and assisted instruction in PE when looking into student engagement. There was little for past research. There wasn't a whole lot of research to go on for this study before conducting the research. However, within the study, there was used behaviorism theory. Behaviorism theory is how one responds to the environment and also how one responds to a stimulant. The use of technology was used as a stimulant for student behavior or response. Students would look at the PowerPoint and watch videos or pictures and find models and use those models and pictures and videos and show how to respond to it in their environment. The pictures and videos help students engage within the lesson and help teach the skills being taught. Social learning theory was also used within the research lessons. Social learning theory is learning from models and observation. A reproduction of learned behaviors in an adequate teaching environment is also showing social learning theory. Students can watch the videos and look at the pictures or models and copy what those skills were teaching and apply them in class. Students could also mimic and reproduce actions from other students within the classroom, gaining social experience and learning from their peers. The purpose of the study was to determine how technology-assisted instruction differs from traditional instruction in engagement in elementary students in the physical education classroom setting. The hypothesis of the researcher was that students who receive technology-assisted instruction will have an increase in engagement compared to those who receive traditional instruction. Within the study, 43 fourth grade students from 2 different classrooms were used. All of the fourth grade students' ages ranged from 9 to 10. One of the students was on an IEP. The demographic of the fourth grade students were predominantly white Caucasian, with only 5% of the population being African American. Approximately 48% of the students qualified for free and reduced lunch. In this study, it was comprised of an experimental group and a control group. In the experimental group, technology-assisted instruction was used. Within the control group, only oral traditional instruction was used. Each lesson was recorded with an iPad and used music as cues for both the experimental and control groups. In the procedures for the experimental group, timed PowerPoints were used. Timed PowerPoints were used to aid instruction. That included using videos of famous athletes or famous actors to show instruction of skills and to model behaviors for students to copy and produce. Models were also used for students to look at and reproduce within the class. The control group only received instruction from the teacher with oral instructions and visuals produced by the instructor. They were limited to the knowledge and cues of the instructor by herself. Both classrooms met once every 3 days for 30 minutes. Both classrooms were recorded using an iPad to be reviewed later to look at engagement levels while recording on a teacher survey. In the experimental group, iTunes was used to control music within the PowerPoint. An Epson Brightlink projector was used to project the PowerPoint on the wall using PowerPoint Software 2013. In the results of the study, the purpose of the study was to determine how technology-assisted instruction differs from traditional instruction in engagement in elementary students in the physical education setting. Independent samples t-tests were used. Progress was monitored in each class period with the teacher survey. Data was analyzed at the conclusion of an 8-week intervention. Statistically significant increase in student engagement as a result of technology-assisted instruction. When looking at the post-test of the experimental mean, it was 80.5, while the post-test control mean was 56.05. This is a large increase when looking at the experimental and control groups. When looking at the tables, we can look at the pre-test scores and the post-test scores. Looking at the t-scores, you can see the t-score from the pre-test to the post-test more than tripled from the pre-test to the post-test. And the p-scores from the pre-test to the post-test went from insignificant to significant. When looking at the results through a bar graph, looking at the pre-test, Group 1 marginally was ahead of Group 2, Group 1 being the experimental group. When looking at the post-test, you can see how Group 1, the experimental group, increased significantly compared to Group 2, the control group, by increase of almost 30%. Within the study, for implications for the participants, it was an advantage of using a control and test group to monitor the research. It was also an advantage of an increased student-to-teacher interaction during the experimental group. The teacher was allowed to move around the room and instruct students how to properly perform skills while the students were learning from the videos and the models, while the teacher could go around and help critique students. Also, an implication for the participants was an advantage of the same curriculum. Even though the experimental group got technology to assist their instruction, the same lesson was used in both the experimental and control groups. So the students learned the exact same lesson. Within the technology assisted instruction experimental group, students increased their interest and engagement within that because they were able to use other things within the lesson using technology. Implications for the educators. Implications for the educators were using current best practice by being able to use technology within the lesson. This helped adapt to 21st century skills and applying those skills for students. Additional student benefits were the use of technology and that the teacher could move around the room because then the teacher could meet students individually and help them learn. Whereas when the teacher was performing the skills and teaching the lesson orally, she could not move around the room and help students individually. It was also creatively incorporating technology using 21st century skills. As I said, those students could use those skills and adapt them and use them across all sorts of different classrooms when using technology. Limitations to the study. A duration of class time was a limitation to the study. The classroom could only meet once every third day of a 6-day cycle. This meaning that the teacher only got to see the students once or twice a week. Another limitation to the study was technology malfunctions. If the PowerPoint would not load, or if technology was down that day, the lesson could not be used. And then the research was contaminated. Another limitation to the study was sample size. The study was limited to 1 4th grade level. If the study would have been used larger, I think it would have been a little bit better. Recommendations for next research. A longer length of study. Only getting to use 8 weeks limited the amount of time the students could be seen. The study should be conducted for the length of the school year. That way, adequate times are met for each class and each student group. The study could also be following students through multiple years or grade levels to get a better size of the student population. Other recommendations are larger group of students, a more representation of the general population. This could be used to see whether different grade levels respond differently to technology-assisted instruction compared to just using 4th grade. In conclusion, effects of technology on student engagement helped increase student engagement within the study. The intervention was significant in growth of student engagement and therefore was a successful study. Thank you.